All right, hello guys. Let me make sure we are good to go on YouTube before I start breaking into my analysis of episode 5. But as you guys can tell by the title, I wouldn't say I was a big fan. I would just say I think in terms of Rings of Power's quality, I think it's the best episode of the entire show. Now, why is that? I still don't think Rings of Power is a good show, but I think they are taking steps so that parts of the show are exceeding other parts, right? Like, if you think about episode 4, why was episode 4 so bad in my eyes? Because majority of the episode was with two plot lines specifically. Arondir's plot was also a part of that, but I didn't have as many issues with Arondir's plot, but I still think it had issues. So this episode focused on the strengths of the show, right? Which was, okay, Khazad-dûm, the Sauron plot, and the Numenor plot, which I think are by far the best three plot lines. And so I think this show is just so inconsistent because depending on what plot line you're getting, depends how interested you are, right? Because right now, like, the Harfoot plot has no real impact on the rest of the story right now. It is a story that is very illogical. It doesn't really make much sense. And so you put that into it, and then you put the elf plot into it, which is the elf plot with Galadriel and Elrond also doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, given what Galadriel set up in this next episode to be doing, that seems like she's going to be teaming up with Adar. Really weird plot line that doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion, but okay. So the strength of this episode, it comes from that these are the strongest plot lines, the plot lines that actually matter and or connect to each other, right? So let's talk about the three plots we get in the episode and kind of go through each one. But yeah. Also, hi Matthew, hi Radical. This episode was good because it had the best three plot lines. Agreed. No hobbits is always a plus. Agreed. I just cannot. I don't care at all. When the Harfoots come on, there's nothing I care about on them. I still have an issue with the guy in Numenor who I want to punch, the kid who is the show version of Joffrey. Yeah, we'll get there. Let's talk about Numenor first, I guess. So, Numenor plotline is, okay, Pharazôn has taken the throne more or less, and, Miriel has lost all of her power, right? So, okay, how is that going to go down, right? The problem with this plotline is I think that if you are somebody that doesn't know the source material, what does the faithful mean? Like, they don't really establish that in the show. Like, I know what that means because I've done my background research and I've read the Silmarillion once. I know what that means. But if you're like a fan or you're just somebody that's a casual watcher, I have no idea if you'd even know what that means because they're yet to really talk about it. Like, they started to introduce it here in this episode, like talking about Valinor and all that stuff, but they didn't really do anything with it. So, I don't know. But you have that part of it. And then you also have, it's like, the characters are a little bit weird because they don't have a lot of development. Like, Pharazôn's son or whatever has, no development whatsoever. He's just a bad dude. That's about it. And then, you have, I think, Elendil's daughter, which she's a character that also just doesn't have a lot of development either. Like, it just feels like this Numenor plot should have gotten more time to develop these characters to where you feel more for them. But I will say, I think what you get here makes a lot of sense, right? So Miriel doesn't want... Well, okay. Even in the actual context of it, I'm still a little confirmed. I'm a little confused. So Miriel has these dreams reoccurring that something is going to happen to Numenor, right? But she doesn't know what. And that means that for her, the way she's interpreting is that this is the fate of Numenor. It's going to happen regardless. So then when she gets this vision or Elendil tells her this vision that he leaves basically Numenor, and he's like the future of Numenor more or less. So are they basically now in a position where they're just like, okay, we're just going to let Numenor be destroyed and we're just going to recognize that Elendil will be the future? It just is a weird idea in my opinion. Like, you could stop this, right? If you guys letting it happen is what's going to allow Numenor to fall. but maybe they believe they can't actually take the throne back now because Pharazôn has just so much power and influence. I don't know. I'm a little like, I don't know. I don't get the rationale there that well. 8, how Isildur's sister betrays her father because her brother supposedly dies because of the Palantir vision. Yeah, I think Isildur's sister, just her motivations are still quite unclear. Like, I get the idea that, okay, she doesn't like Muriel because Muriel is the person that took the forces of Numenor to Middle-earth, which ends up getting her brother killed, more or less. Well, in their eyes. So, I don't know. I do agree. Like, I think that there's a lot of questions still with the Numenor plot, but I do think it's going in an interesting direction, right? So, Elendil is being tested, right? They're basically trying to provoke him so that they can, put him in jail. He is the right-hand man to Muriel, the other faction that Pharazôn doesn't have rulership over. And so I like that they test that, right? They test, demoting him. What is his tipping point? And that tipping point comes when Isildur's friend kind of dies, right? And they're, at this temple or whatnot. So I like that they actually go through with that. It's an interesting concept. I will say I'm glad they actually killed Isildur's friend because I thought it was going to be kind of weird. It's like, okay, you had a situation where it seems like you're going to drown him. And then, he has a situation where he could have killed Pharazôn's son. He doesn't because of Elendil. And then that is what causes him to die. I find that very interesting, right? Like, that should have a really big, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It should have a really big rationale into Elendil. Like, because of Muriel's orders, he did this and it got somebody killed, right? I don't know. I think it's interesting the way that they went about that plot. I like that Pharazôn's trying to get rid of all of his, opposite party members. We see this in history all the time. I think the Numenor plot is questionable at times, but it's at least entertaining to me. Also, Isildur's brother, I don't think he exists. The next 3 episodes will definitely be the Siege of Eregion. Yeah. And also, am I the only one that looks at the sister and just sees a modern woman? Yeah. I just don't think she has much to her character right now. But yeah, Matthew, I'm kind of in the same boat because we know that the Harfoot stuff is going to have to happen, and we're going to get some sort of interaction with this wizard, I would assume. But I don't know. Hi, Ruckus. How are you? Like how they did with Merry and Pippin and Helm's Deep in the Jackson movie? Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing either, right? I don't think it's good to have action just constantly. You need to break it up a little bit. But unfortunately, the Harfoot plot's just not very good. How did you like how did everybody, like, if you guys were rating it, what would you give the episode, like, out of 10? I gave it probably like a 7, so that's the Numenor plot. The Numenor plot, I think, out of the 3 main plots, I think is the most questionable, but let's move on. I do really like the Khazad-dûm plot. I think it actually makes a lot of sense. I think that what they're doing with the characters is pretty interesting, right? You're having that, Durin gets the ring. He gets one of the Dwarven rings, and how that's kind of corrupting him. He's becoming more greedy. He seems to have this connection with, the minerals and all that stuff, and the mountain. He seems more innerly connected. But, yeah. Oh, dang. Matthew Stewart giving it a 5, Ruckus giving it a 3, and Radical giving it a 7.5. I think I'm a little bit more positive on it. I think the more I talk about Rings of Power, though, I think it comes down, because even the Numenor stuff, I think after like I watched it the first time, I liked a good amount of it. And like, even as I was talking at the beginning of the stream, I was starting to then question some of the things going on in Numenor. So we'll see. Like I haven't really, this isn't like for me with House of the Dragon, where House of the Dragon, I interpret it, and then, I'll have a stream right after to talk about it with the community. I'll kind of gauge, my community's thoughts on it. And then after that, I will then, go back, rewatch it, and then figure out, I really, really nailed down what my thoughts are on the actual show. Rings of Power, it's like I watch it one time, I think about it a little bit, and then I just go on stream and talk about what my initial thoughts were. So, very much open to interpretation. Disa being the one who knows everything and is constantly right is annoying. IDK, why Durin the Fourth can't get a solid win in. I agree. I think Disa is a character that I do like. I think that they've done a lot of good things with Disa, but I do think, like, why can't Durin, ever win? I do agree. I thought they were giving Isildur's plot to the guy called Valendiel because I believe Anarian's son is of that name. I don't even know. I don't even know what they're trying to do with Isildur's plot, to be honest, Ruckus. I don't even know. Oh, that's another thing. Okay, so that's another thing, Ruckus. That brings me a good point. This was one of my major criticisms that I kind of forgot about. So they're in the marketplace. So let's start with the Khazad-dûm plot. And so the main thing with the Khazad-dûm plot that's going on is you have Durin who gets the ring. He's able to help out Khazad-dûm. They're able to get the light back because of he knows where to dig, more or less. And so that starts to fix some of the issues going on in Moria. Or I guess it's Khazad-dûm right now, but it's fine. So with that being said, though, they're at the market with Disa and Durin, and Disa just really awkward scene where this gem thing or whatever just keeps falling away from her, and it's like, okay. And then somehow there's a pathway that's right next to the middle of the marketplace, a very populated area of this place, you would think, and there's just a wide open passage, and she instantly goes down the passage and apparently hears the Balrog. What? You're telling me it's not even a hidden passage. It's not like Bilbo with Smeagol in The Hobbit, for instance. It's literally a wide open passage. I don't know. It just came off as very cheesy, and it just wasn't very... It didn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion. So Radical, I think the problem with the rings are... The show is very much having to fast forward through a lot of plot lines. So something like what, Durin is going through with the ring should take a whole season to develop, right? It should be okay, episode 1, he gets the ring. And then by episode 8, he is someone that's being really affected by it because he's become so much more reliant on the ring. I think the problem with it is it's just affected him within one episode. Within one episode of him getting it, he's a completely different character. And so it feels kind of similar to Thorin from the Hobbit trilogy, where it's he instantly, it seems like it's just a flip and he's a different character. That to me, I think it's like the Arkenstone effect all over again type thing. So yeah, I don't mind the way they've done it in the show because I understand they have to rush things and condense time. But it also just feels like it's a little too quick. That's something I felt in this episode, is I felt like things were happening too quickly and they weren't really developed up to enough because we don't see these plot lines for whole episodes at a time, right? We didn't see Sauron and his whole plot line for an entire episode. In season 2, when it's about him crafting all the rings and manipulating Celebrimbor and Eregion, the fact that he's not even in one of the episodes is insane to me. That just shouldn't happen. The fact that Khazad-dûm, that plot line, when they're trying to do so much with it, is not in an episode is insane to me. I think a lot of the issues of this show would be fixed simply by if they just remove the Harfoot plot line. If they just remove the Harfoot plot line, where we're apparently trying to find the Shire with some other bullshit that they've made up that makes no sense, I think a lot of the problems would be alleviated because you'd have more time to build the things. Like what I talked about in the Numenor plot, don't have enough time to build up all these different characters and have them have meaningful development. So, I don't know. How do you think the season ends? Sauron going to disperse the 9? Yes, I think so. Probably, Matthew. It's kind of what this seems like they're building up to. I agree, Jesse, though. I can't stand Elendil's daughter either. She just isn't a very compelling character, in my opinion. And an Arion? Yeah, I don't know. I think they've just said we're not doing that character. The Doors of Durin reveal came out of nowhere. Yeah, it didn't really feel like it made that much sense, or it was kind of wild. I don't know. Yeah, that was stupid. There's a cave to the Balrog right next to the city. I thought the Balrog slept where the nameless things lived. Yeah, that's the problem I have, Jesse, is it's just okay, so if Disa can sense the Balrog because of her voice power nonsense, how does Durin not also sense the Balrog? Because he has this ring that tells him where all these things are. It's just very weird to me that the Balrog is right next to the marketplace a populated area. This isn't like just some random corner of Khazad-dûm. This is your marketplace where you would assume most people go to get their food, which is very important given the time they're in right now, where they haven't been able to grow food up until this episode, right? They've been starving for the most part. I don't know. I agree, Matthew, as well. I like that Sauron is being more manipulative. Like, it felt like more of a Sauron-y-esque episode where he's trying to manipulate the situation, all these things. And I don't know how it's going to play out until the end of the season. Like, when we get to the end of the season, we'll be able to tell, like, okay, was Sauron's plan, did it make sense? And I already think it doesn't make any sense to begin with, because his whole plan is based upon the fact that Celebrimbor doesn't know who he is, right? Like, he doesn't know that he's Sauron. So you have to go through this idea that Galadriel didn't tell Celebrimbor, didn't tell anybody. They go back to Lindon. Nobody's able to get a message to Eregion, which doesn't make any sense given the fact that it says in the episodes that multiple messages were sent to Celebrimbor. They didn't ever get there, apparently, somehow, because they all went through this one way with the Barrow Downs that doesn't make any sense, because the Barrow Downs aren't a thing at this point of the story, which, again, it's hard to... Again, lore stuff is hard because this show doesn't care about lore. So, yeah. That's just how it is. So it's like Sauron's plan to me just doesn't make much sense, but I do enjoy watching the character is kind of where I'm at in the feeling of the character. I did like a lot of what they did with him manipulating people and things like that. Like, his kind of dynamic with Celebrimbor is quite interesting. How he shifts the blame to Celebrimbor for lying to Gil-galad, when he sends that message back. I don't know. When could we see the forging of the One Ring? I would say it has to happen soon. Like, because once the 9 are made, his next priority would be making the 1. So the One Ring possibly could be made by either early next season or by the end of this season, depending on how quick they fly through plot lines. I don't get why they had Sauron as Halbrand and not just as Annatar. I do like the Annatar business, though. Yeah, that's my point, right? It feels like some of the things and the decisions they made in Season 1 really hurt Season 2 because the logic just doesn't make sense. They only wanted the Harfoot plot to this show because it was more familiar to the fans, which doesn't make any sense, right? The Hobbits are not really that big of a thing right now. They're not that relevant. That's the whole point of the Lord of the Rings, right? The whole point of the Lord of the Rings is like everybody devalues the Hobbits for all these things, and if you have this whole situation where the Hobbits are going to be extremely relevant in this story, it then doesn't really make sense to why when we go to the Third Age and we get to the Lord of the Rings, why does everybody just like not know who Hobbits are and they or underestimates them? It's just very weird to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They reiterated that this series is still planned for 5 seasons. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I don't know what they're going to truly do, though, is the question, because they're kind of speeding through, the Eregion plot. So, we're going to have, I'm assuming we're going to see Numenor, like their main big part of the plot line be in the next season. Like, next season will be Sauron and Numenor. But we'll see how that goes. And then, season 4, season 5 will kind of take part in the War of the Last Alliance, I would assume. But I don't know what they're going to do in between that time, though, because that's the other part of it. It's like, you think about what they're doing right now. Eventually, Numenor has to fall. So how are we going to have a show where characters like Galadriel, Elrond, Khazad-dûm, how are those characters still going to be relevant given the story is going to move away from them? That's what I find is very interesting. I don't even know how that would, That would be crazy, Radical. Apparently, the Hunt for Gollum movie is going to be 2 films. They're milking the shit out of a couple of pages of story. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, Ruckus. I have no idea why you'd make 2 films out of that. That doesn't make any sense. It's kind of a short story. Like, I don't know how you'd even make 2 films of it. Like, unless they're doing like a Hobbit thing again, Ruckus, where it's about the Hunt for Gollum, but it's also about something else, right? They're telling 2 stories within one, trilogy of movies, right? So the Hobbit's original plan was always to be, okay, the Hobbit story, and then we have the Sauron story, like right after. And they ended up kind of mashing them together for 3 movies, and it just didn't really work. And so, yeah, I think that is very worrying. Yeah, Ruckus, you can miss all of the Harfoot stuff. It does not apply to the rest of the show. It just doesn't. It has no relevance to the show at all. Why are they doing Durin's Bane now? How will that connect to the rest of the show? I don't know, Jesse. It doesn't seem relevant to me at all. I don't understand. It just seems like, again, they've done a lot of this, especially in the last episode, episode 4, where they're just throwing things at us that are, oh my God, that was in the Fellowship of the Ring book. Or that was in the Peter Jackson movie. Don't you guys like that? Like, don't you guys like seeing, not Old Man Willow, no, some other fucking tree that doesn't matter. Don't you like it when that tree like eats a character and then Tom Bombadil has to save them? Wow, how inventive. Oh, don't you guys love going back to the Barrow Downs because that's what happened in Fellowship? But it wasn't, in the movie. Don't you guys like that? Don't you guys love when we basically completely copy lines from Peter Jackson movies? But yeah. But yeah, Matthew, it just doesn't make any sense. Why are we building up towards finding the Shire? Also, don't even get me started on the Harfoot plot. The Harfoot plot's just bad. I'm just saying though, something we could see. I made a video about it on this channel. It was one of my first videos on this channel. What if we see, Aragorn go into Moria? Because he has said, and it's a very one-off line, that he has at least been in Moria before Fellowship of the Ring in the book. That'd be cool if we went there. If they showed some, him maybe tracking Gollum there or something. I don't know. If they were to make another Lord of the Rings trilogy, what story would you want them to do from the lore? There's 2, actually. So one, I would say I would love to see the fall of Arnor. I think that would be really cool. Or just the war in the north. In the Peter Jackson movies don't really do a good job of, showing that there's war going on in other places, for instance. You could almost, and in this, I think the War of the North almost makes more sense as a follow-up than, Arnor, because it could realistically, you could take the same actors, same characters who played in the Hobbit movie, and you could have them maybe show, well, the ones that are living, right, show up during some of the war, in Erebor and Dale and all of that. That would be really cool. Or we could see Dol Guldur being attacked during the War of the North during the War of the Ring. That would be really cool. I would love that. I've always talked about this one because I love Moria. Moria is one of my favorite places in Tolkien's lore. You could have Balin's expedition, and it would basically play out like a horror film. That would be really cool to me. I'd love to see that. That would just be a one-off movie, though. That wouldn't be a trilogy. That would literally be one single movie, and then just, go from there. Jesse, but my problem with the Tom Bombadil character is they just kind of made him a moron. He's just a moron, and he just is very condescending, it seems like. I don't know. I don't love the way they've done Tom Bombadil. Yeah, Jesse. They just taking plot lines that weren't adapted to the movie, and they put them into Rings of Power. Agreed, Ruckus. Yeah, the taking of the Shire, that would have been a cool thing. That's another thing that they want. If they wanted to do a mini story, that's something they could do. Maybe like a what if situation, right? Maybe Peter Jackson comes back and he does a what if scenario. What if this had actually happened? The actual ending of the book. It'd be kind of cool. But that's my thing, Jesse, is there's so many I think mini stories you could tell within the Legendarium. That's why I think it's so weird that they took the entirety of the Second Age, more or less, and we're hey, let's just condense it. It's just really weird. I don't know. Please no Harfoots next week. It's coming. I can tell you right now it's coming. We're not going to go 2 episodes in a row without Harfoots. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the rights issues and stuff like that, Radical. But this is my thing. If you don't have all the rights to do a Lord of the Rings show that you need, don't do the show. I mean, it's that simple. Just don't do the show. I don't know. But I'm going to call it there. Just a nice little short stream. I wanted to give my thoughts because I'm not really doing video reviews of the show because I just don't. One, I don't really have enough time to do that. And then two, I also don't have really any passion to do that and make videos about it. I just do the streams, just kind of chat with you guys. But yeah. I hope you guys all enjoyed the stream. I might do a stream on the main channel later tonight. I don't know. My voice is already kind of getting a little, I don't know. I've been dealing with like sinus issues off and on for a while, but yeah. But I hope you guys all enjoy the stream, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.